What if a single moment at a bustling restaurant could turn a young woman's dreams into reality? Imagine a Friday night alive with jazz and ambition, where a daring challenge sparks a performance so breathtaking, it silences a room full of rallies. Elite. Will she rise to the occasion or fade under the spotlight? Dive into a story of courage, talent, and triumph that will keep you captivated until the very last note. La Fontaine was no ordinary restaurant. Nestled in the heart of Raleigh, North Carolina, its polished mahogany tables, crystal chandeliers, and live jazz made it a magnet for the wealthy and powerful. On this warm Friday evening, the air was thick with the scent of truffle oil and ambition. The restaurant was packed, servers weaving through the crowd with practiced grace, and at the center of it all was Deborah Jackson, a 25-year-old waitress, whose quick smile hid a world of dreams. Deborah was striking, not just for her warm brown skin and tightly coiled curls pulled into a neat bun, but for the way she moved, like she was dancing to a rhythm only she could hear. She'd worked at La Fontaine for 3 years, her nimble fingers delivering plates of seared scallops and pouring vintage Bordeaux with precision. But her heart wasn't in the clatter of dishes or the forced politeness of serving rallies. Elite. It was with the grand piano in the corner of the dining room, its glossy black surface gleaming under the soft lights. Every night, after her shift, Deborah would linger by it, her fingers brushing the keys when no one was watching, playing fragments of melodies she'd composed in her head. Music was her escape, her truth. A dream of attending the Raleigh Music Academy that felt impossibly out of reach. Deborah's life hadn't been easy. Raised by her single mother, Tanya, in a small apartment on the edge of town, she'd grown up with love but little else. Tanya, a seamstress with a voice like honey, had taught Deborah to play piano on an old upright in their living room. Its keys yellowed, but warm with memory. "Never let anyone tell you what you're worth, baby," Tanya would say, her hands calloused but gentle. "Your gift is yours. Hold it tight." Those words carried Deborah through long shifts, through the ache of her feet and the sting of entitled customers who barely saw her. But the dream of music school, with its $30,000 a year tuition, felt like a star she could see, but never touch. Tonight, the restaurant was electric with energy. A group of tech moguls celebrated a merger, their laughter loud and their tips stingy. At table 12, a family marked a promotion with champagne. And at table 8, Leonard Grayson held court. At 42, Leonard was a black man who'd clawed his way to the top of Raleigh's tech scene, building a cybersecurity empire that made him a multimillionaire. Tall, with a tailored suit that screamed money and a shaved head that caught the light, he was magnetic, but cruel. His sharp tongue and love for spectacle were legendary. He'd once fired an employee in front of a boardroom for a minor mistake, then tweeted about it to his 200,000 followers on X, calling it housekeeping. Tonight he was in rare form, his entourage of business associates hanging on his every word. Deborah approached table 8 with a tray of drinks, her steps steady despite the knot in her stomach. Leonard's eyes locked onto her as she set down a glass of bourbon. "Well, look at this," he said, his voice loud enough to draw glances. "You move like you're on a stage. What's your deal, sweetheart? You a singer? A dancer?" His tone was playful, but there was an edge to it, like a cat toying with a mouse. Deborah forced a smile, her mother's words echoing in her mind. "Just a waitress, sir," she said, keeping her voice even. She turned to leave, but Leonard's hand shot out, not touching her but close enough to make her freeze. "Oh, come on now," he said, leaning back in his chair. "Don't be shy. I bet you've got some hidden talent. Everyone's got something, right?" His entourage chuckled, and Deborah felt the room's attention shift toward her. "That piano over there," Leonard continued, pointing to the grand piano. "You ever play it?" Or is it just for show? Like you? The words hit like a slap. Deborah's cheeks burned, but she kept her composure. I play a little, she said quietly, hoping to diffuse the moment. She wasn't lying. She'd taught herself Debussy, Beethoven, and her own compositions on that old upright at home. But she wasn't about to perform for a man like Leonard. A little? Leonard's grin widened. Predatory. Well, let's see it. Play something for us. Right now. He waved a hand at the dining room, where heads were turning, forks pausing mid-bite. Entertain us, Deborah. Her name on his lips felt like a violation. She glanced at her manager, Carla, a no-nonsense black woman who ran La Fontaine with an iron fist. Carla's eyes were sympathetic but firm. Don't make a scene. Deborah's heart raced. She could walk away, but Leonard's taunts would follow her, and so would the whispers of the other servers, the pitying looks from the patrons. Or she could play, and risk whatever game he was playing. All right, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. I'll play. The room buzzed as she walked to the piano, her black uniform skirt swaying slightly. She felt every eye on her, some curious, some skeptical, some waiting for her to fail. Leonard leaned forward, his smirk unwavering, as if he'd already won. Deborah sat on the bench, her fingers hovering over the keys. For a moment she was back in her mother's living room, Tanya humming along as she played. Your gift is yours, she'd said. Deborah closed her eyes, took a breath, and began. The first notes of Clair de Lune spilled into the room, soft and shimmering, like moonlight on water. Deborah's fingers moved with a grace that belied her nerves, each note deliberate, each phrase infused with the weight of her life, her mother's sacrifices, her late night studying music theory by lamplight, her dreams deferred. The melody swelled, delicate yet powerful, and the dining room fell silent. The clatter of dishes stopped. The tech moguls at table 12 set down their glasses. Even Carla, who'd seen it all, stood frozen behind the bar. Deborah didn't see the room. She was lost in the music, her body swaying slightly as she poured her soul into the keys. The piece built to its climax, a cascade of notes that felt like a release, a defiance, a declaration. I am here. I am enough. As the final chord faded, the silence held for a heartbeat, then two. Then the room erupted. Applause thundered through. La Fontaine, patrons rising to their feet. An older black woman at table 4 wiped a tear from her cheek. A young couple at table 10 clapped wildly, their faces lit with awe. Deborah opened her eyes, startled, and saw the room transformed. The skepticism was gone, replaced by admiration, respect, even love. She glanced at Leonard, expecting his smirk, but his face was blank, his mouth slightly open. For the first time that night, he had no words. Deborah stood, smoothing her skirt, and faced Leonard. Everyone's got a gift, she said, her voice clear and calm. It's what you do with it that matters. The words weren't loud, but they carried, and a few patrons nodded, their murmurs of agreement rippling through the room. Leonard's entourage shifted uncomfortably, their laughter replaced by awkward silence. Leonard cleared his throat, forcing a smile. Well, damn, he said, his voice thinner than before. That was impressive. But the words felt hollow, a weak attempt to reclaim control. He stood, tossing a $100 bill on the table like it was nothing. Let's go, he muttered to his group, and they filed out, their usual swagger gone. The dining room barely noticed their exit, still buzzing with Deborah's performance. As the night continued, Patrons stopped Deborah to shake her hand, slip her generous tips, and share kind words. "You're a star," said the woman from table 4, pressing $50 into her hand. "Don't let nobody tell you different." Carla pulled her aside, her stern face softened. "You did good, Deb. Real good." For the first time in years, Deborah felt seen, not as a waitress, but as an artist. 3 days later, as Deborah wiped down tables during a slow lunch shift, a man approached her. He was middle-aged, black, with a kind face and a business card that read, Malik Thompson, Music. Producer. He'd been at La Fontaine that Friday, dining quietly at table 15. "I couldn't stop thinking about your playing," he said. "You've got something special. I'd like to offer you a chance to record a demo at my studio. No strings, just a shot to show the world what you can do." Deborah stared at the card, her heart pounding. It wasn't a guarantee, but it was a door. One she'd never thought she'd see. She thought of her mother, of the piano at home, of Leonard's stunned face. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'd love that." Deborah's demo led to a scholarship at the Raleigh Music Academy, where she honed her craft and began composing her own music. Her story spread on X, with patrons from that night posting clips of her performance, calling her the Waitress, who stole the show. Leonard Grayson never returned to La Fontaine, but Deborah didn't care. She'd faced his mockery and turned it into a moment of triumph, proving to herself and the world that her gift was undeniable. Her story became a beacon for others, a reminder that no one can dim your light if you refuse to let them.